All right, root cause. This is kind of where we get into. When we go around, we talk to people. Everybody always has a reason for their dog's anxiety, and it always tends to fall in three categories. And the first thing is history. And we every time I go to somebody's house new, I always get the same story, and we laugh. Every profession has the same thing you hear over and over and over and over. When I was in law enforcement, I'd walk in somewhere, I didn't do it, don't shoot. It's like, yeah, I've never heard that 15,000 times a day. So, the same thing with dog training. You start hearing the same thing. I think my dog was abused. We don't know what happened to him when he was a child. And all these stories about what happened in the dog's past. And ultimately, it's good to have a foundation to kind of know where it's at, but frankly, it doesn't matter because a dog will only live in the past as long as you allow it. Okay, and now it's not to say it won't have lasting effects. It will, but a dog doesn't write to his mom going, "You abused me as a child, and you left me at 8 weeks," and it's just not like what we do. They just don't, they don't live there for a long time. And the other thing, I can't change it, so I really don't spend a whole lot of time on the dog's history. And second thing is genetics. Genetics play a huge part. I've got a border collie. I've got a wide range of dogs: border collie, pit bull, lab, and what is it called? He's a beagle. Well, my border collie, if he's running with other dogs, he's going to be nipping at their hind legs, hurting them. It's natural. My pit bulls, if they see a cat or a squirrel or a rabbit and it runs from them, they are going to want to kill it. It's just, that's in them. My lab, if I pick up anything, he's going, throw it, and he just gets obsessed with it. So genetics play a huge role in how a dog's behavior affects them. And as we're going to talk about, you're going to see that different dogs need different levels of structure. It's no different than a child. All three of my kids need different levels of structure and boundaries, love and affection. So each one's different. But I can't change genetics. The last thing, guys, and this is pretty simple, the dog perceives they're in control as far as the root cause of anxiety, that is. And this is the big one. This is the one we have an effect on and that we can actually change. Your dog may love you, he may think you're your best friend, but he doesn't perceive you as being in charge. It's more of a sibling type relationship versus a parent-child relationship. I always hear these different things of, I think my dog was abused by X, Y, and Z. And it's typically either a race or male, female, or something like that. There's always something out there. And so I was like, I think my dog was abused by a monkey with a blue hat and swinging a bat because he saw one and he flipped out. Could it be that it's just something that the dog's not seen before and he just doesn't know what it is? And so the problem with this, guys, is that you start viewing the dog as a baby that needs nurturing. And you start coddling it, you start confident, and you want to do that. And as we're going to talk about it, it's not what the dog needs. Okay, dogs don't respond to that. The other thing I always point out is, it's okay to associate the dog with human characteristics, but you got to understand that the child grows up, and that the needs of the child change over time. And it's just like, if Ellie, my youngest 3-year-old, if you came to the door and knocked on the door, she's going to go, Daddy, somebody's here. She's going to come cling to me. I'm going to go, hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Versus my 7-year-old Colton, if the mailman comes up and he goes, the mailman's at the door. What do? I don't go, hey, buddy, it's okay. It's the mailman. I go, get over here. It's a freaking mailman. Man up. It's like you handle it in a different mentality, right? I don't sit there and baby my 7-year-old. When a dog goes into a fight mode, how do most people handle it? I mean, what do most people do? In general, like as far as handling the dog, how do you handle the dog? You coddle it? Pull them out, right? You take charge, right? Sure. But what do we do when the dog gets scared? We coddle it, right? Okay, and one of the things you're going to see tonight is they're the exact same thing. A dog that runs from me, I treat it just like he's trying to bite me. Get over here, sit, stop. I'm very assertive with him. Because as soon as that dog runs into a kennel or a shelter, and I reach in that kennel, rah, 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 he's going to turn around and bite me. Because he has nowhere else to go. They're very, very interchangeable. A dog can move from a fight to a flight very, very quickly. Dogs understand who's in charge by who sets boundaries. Absence of boundaries in the home, absence of perceived leadership in the home. And so the dog starts going, you're really cool to hang out with. You're obviously not in charge because you're not setting any boundaries on me. It must be me that's in charge, okay? Dogs have basically 4 different responses to anxiety. And the first one is fight. One of the key things with fight is it's highly more likely to get a fight when the other three are taken away. So anytime we move one of the responses or take away the dog's ability to go into a response, you're going to see it slided into another category. Okay, just like the dog that runs into the crate in the kennel and he locks down, he has nowhere else to go. We've taken out the ability to go in flight, and now you reach in there, he has nothing else to do but either avoid or fight or submit. Okay, and so you have a much higher tendency. Anybody in here, take your dog to the dog park, he does perfectly fine at the dog park, you put him on a leash, he tries to kill anybody. Anybody in here with that? Okay, why is that? At the dog park, he can go, I don't like you, I can get away from you. Or if I want to fight you, and he can also move to avoidance. So he stays in a much more balance. But when we attach him to a leash, we've taken out flight, and he's going, I'm with somebody I don't feel like is in charge. I don't trust you to be in control, so it must be on me. So now I gotta turn around and fight, and I got to posture fight. And you'll see a dog, again, the interchangeableness of this. A dog may posture fight. The second you charge to them, and they turn around and take off. They posture fight, and then they go to a flight. Very, very interchangeable between the two. They posture into a challenge. Flight. This is the big one, and this is probably the one I have the hardest time with clients on is the flight mode. And again, it is absolutely no different. Long-term flight, I won't say always, very high probability that a dog going into a flight will eventually turn around and go to a fight. Because as they get older, they feel like they can't defend themselves, or they may not feel like they can get away. So long-term, allowing a dog to go into a flight will typically lead to aggression issues and the fight. Again, you have to envision your dog. When your dog goes into a flight and he's going, I got to get out of here, you have to envision it. That dog is attacking the person or the thing that's doing it. How would I respond if he were running up and attacking it? Okay, and apply that same response to a flight. Hey, come here, sit down, stop, sit, and taking more control of the environment there. Here's the big issue with flight. At the end of a flight, there's always a shelter. I'm going to run somewhere where I feel like I can lock in and I can get comfortable, and this is kind of like my final stand. The shelter can be a house, it can be a kennel, it can be a bed, it can be a person. There's so many different things that can become a shelter to the dog. And again, when the dog gets into that shelter, we have a much higher tendency for the dog to move to that fight mode. The problem we have is when the person becomes the shelter. You become the shelter and the dog comes up to you and clings you. How many of you in here have a dog that clings to you, follows you around the house, and constantly has to be up under you all the time? Right? And so the dog is sheltering on you, okay? And we'll get to the answer here in just a minute. But to me, it's vital to understand what's going on with the dog. Very, very detrimental, because then, people come up and they try to pet you or pet you. Yeah. They try to pet the dog or whatever. They try to talk to you, and the dog turns around and they start biting. The funny thing is, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, I had to break people's image of what's going on with a dog, because I always say, well, my dog's really protective of me because he gets right up against me. I go, I'm sorry to break it to you. Your dog is not protecting you. And let me give you a quick story to show you what your dog's doing. Mom dog with puppies. If a threat comes in, what does mom do? What does she go back to the puppies and coddle the puppy? She comes out here and says, get away from my puppies. I'll kick your butt if you come over here. What do the puppies do? If they're threatened or anything, what do? They cling together, right? And so that cleanliness is not, I think, my brother and sister are going to protect me. It's purely their security in numbers. And I hope I'm not the weakest of the five over here, so I'm going to come over here and hope. And when the dog does that and they turn around and go, rah, 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 they're going, get them, they're weaker than I am, I'll fight you for it. So when your dog backs up to you and he's doing, rah, 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 he's going, get her, get him, okay? And I tell this to people, and people go, you jerk. It's like, so it's purely, I can't go anywhere. I'm attached to somebody I don't feel like's in control. Get them, and I'm going to lock onto it. And this is why the flight is so detrimental. Avoidance is a very fine line between flight and the last one, submission. And typically what we'll see, and you may see this in group class, if you have a reactive dog, and we're doing group class drills, and the trainers have you walking past, and the dog's on your left, there's a dog coming up, they'll do this little number here, and they'll go right here. They're not in full out flight, but they're trying to avoid the dog, and they may shift to the other side of you to try to avoid it. You'll see it in eye contact too. The dog will just go, nobody's here, I don't see anything. It's not my issue there. And so avoidance is a very fine line. Again, the thing you have to watch for avoidance is the dog clinging to you. And again, the dog wanting to go back to the security blankets there. The last one, guys, and this is the important one, this is where we're trying to get to, is submission to authority. And I hate to use the word submission, I hate the term, because people think throwing the dog on the ground and making them submit to you. My kids submit to Andrea and I's authority. If you come over to the house, they're going to go, they're supposed to be here. They look to us for that leadership, right? And so, I love my kids, do all kinds of things for them, but they submit to my and Andrea's authority to be the ones in charge of the household. And so it's the same thing as the dog. This takes time to build trust, okay? And so one of the things that the caveat says, you may have an anxious dog that, one of the big things that I try to make sure that my trainers are explaining to you and that we make very clear before you do any training with us is there's a strong difference in controlling behavior versus changing behavior. Change takes a long time sometimes. Sometimes change never comes. And so it's, and our thing is we can't promise you change. We get control. We help you get control. Change comes through long-term control. Okay, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do in our group classes and our private lessons is help you get control of the dog wanting to go into a fight and flight and moving them into more of a submissive posture where they're going, okay, I give up being in charge. I'm going to submit to your authority. And the trust takes time. I was dealing with a Raleigh fireman about 4 years ago, and he's a real big guy, had a really, really, I don't remember what it was, a little toy dog that just didn't match his personality. It was his wife's dog. But the dog all day long would stand outside, barked at everything, come inside, and anybody rang the doorbell, just full out charging and attacking and trying to get at it and biting. And we were doing, and anybody in here not familiar with what we call the go command? If you are, I want to know who your trainer is, I'm going to fire him, because that's one of the biggest things we teach here. And so I was doing the go command with this fireman. I said, just send the dog to the back of the kitchen, make him get away from the door, and aiming the door. This is my door. You get away from it. And so he did this, and the dog went to the back of the kitchen, and he literally looks like he's having a seizure. I mean, he's just sitting there just shaking. I mean, every body part, drool's coming out. He's peeing on himself. And he said, look at him. I'm beating him down. I'm abusing him. I said, that is submission without trust. He's submitting to your authority. He does not trust you to be able to do it because all day long he's been in charge. He's barking at everything, and he's the one that's always in charge. And now all of a sudden I said, you got a 13-year-old son, right? A 13-year-old son named Brian. He was like mildly autistic, I'm pretty sure. He was there in the lesson. I said, tonight at 11 o'clock, y'all are going to be sitting here watching a movie. And I said, at 11 o'clock, somebody's going to break in that window right now. The masked man's going to come in, and he's going to break in. As soon as I said, you're the head of your household, right? You're the one's protector, right? He's like, yeah. I said, as soon as that guy's coming in, your 13-year-old son Brian's going to stand up and say, Dad, sit down. I got it. And he's going to go over there and try to take care of it. Imagine the nutcase you would be sitting there while your son takes care of it. That's what's going on in your dog's mind. In his mind, he's been in charge this whole time, and now some guy, somebody that he doesn't trust is now taking that ownership, and the dog's over there convulsing. I didn't care that the dog was convulsing. I needed him to submit to our authority to be in control because that is the only place where trust is built, when the dog is in submission. If the dog is in fight, flight, or avoidance, they are in charge. We have to move them to a submissive state where they go, I give up control, and I'm going to move away. And this is where the collar, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but this is where the collar works so well because it's not based on, back up, every other training system is relying on your dog's desire for something. So you're using treats, toys, or affection. And you're doing condition-based training to try to get the dog to respond and do a command in response to a lure, basically. And the problem is when we start dealing with anxious dogs is you pull out a treat and the dog hears thunder, sees another dog. He says, the hell with the treat, I got to protect myself. I got to get out of here. I got to do this. I don't want to eat right now. And the beautiful thing about the collar is we can still get attention through that anxiety, and it's not based on what their desire is. And it's kind of like my kids. I don't stand on the side of the street and go, kids, I got $5. Get out of the street. There's a car coming. You got to do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. Okay? I tell you, get out of the street, you got to do it. I don't base my kids listening on whether or not they want what I'm holding in my hand. At the same time, though, I do encourage them when they get it right. I reward them when they're doing good, and I correct them when they're doing bad. Okay, and it's the same thing. But with the nice thing about the collar, instead of and so with normal training, once the desire for the lure goes away, the trainers are always left with a mechanism of control. Harnesses, gentle leaders, prong collars, something to control the body, because I've lost all focus from my dog. And so now I'm just managing it all, trying to physically control them. But then ultimately, to get the dog to a submissive point, the dog has to make the decision. And this is where pressure from the collar comes in, because once they understand that tap means turn around and look at me, then we can apply pressure to it and get the dog to make the decision. So instead of me dragging the dog back here, we're going, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," I sit here and I give guidance with the leash, and I start going up on the pressure of the collar going, hey, 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 until the dog goes, what? And they turn around. Pressure drops, and we go, good job, stay focused on me. If they deviate back, pressure goes right back up. And then we keep it down. And so, but ultimately, when the dog makes that decision to turn around away from the thing that's making them anxious, it's a submissive response. They are making the choice to do it. Now, granted, it's through manipulation of pressure from the collar, but ultimately the dog is making the decision to do it. I'm not having to physically force them to do it. Now, that's not saying I won't use a leash to help guide them with it, but ultimately it's the pressure of the collar to get them to make that decision. And so we're able to break through that anxiety of, oh my God, I got to fight, oh my God, I got to run. And we're able to go, hey, hey, watch me. Got it. And then that pressure should come down, and it's just like my voice. It's hey, 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 hey. And the dog goes, what? I go, good, good, watch me, I got it. Relax, chill out, focus on me. And so, getting a little ahead of myself, but anyhow, again, establish control. Submission is not dominance. It's establishing control. Again, I don't dominate my kids, okay, but I do lead them. I do give them a lot of structure and guidance there. Again, all other stages, if the dog is in fight, if the dog is in flight, if the dog is in avoidance, they are in control, and you're losing ground. One of the things, when somebody comes up to me and they tell me they have a dog that's biting other dogs or biting people, one of my questions is, how many times has he done it? Because anytime the dog does a pattern, or any child gets into a pattern of something, the harder it is to break it. Because they get comfortable with it and they go, that's my way out, that's my way out. I bite, people back off. I bite, dogs back away. I run away, I get away. I get to go under the couch and hide until everything goes back to normal. And the more you allow it, even the flight, so if a dog is constantly, if a dog's bitten more than 2 to 3 times, the chances of us changing that gets very, very slim as time goes on, if we don't get really good control very fast. The same thing with the flight, though. If the dog's allowed to constantly go into a flight and get in a shelter, we're going backwards all the time. We have to get them to where they're relinquishing that control. We're going to get into the practical application here in just a few minutes, but I want to kind of go through what causes the dog to lose faith in you, okay? Because this is a huge one, and sometimes the dog just comes to you from a shelter and they don't have faith in you, okay? So, but there are things that happen and we see in people's homes that we go, hey, that's telling the dog you're not in charge. And I kind of distinguish it between signaling the dog is in control and signaling the owners are not in control. What about signaling the dog is in control? One of the biggest things that I ask people is, does your dog bark at anything outside? Does he bark outside? You let him outside and does he bark? And if your dog's doing this, it's detrimental, especially like the mailman. This is why the mailman is hated. He comes up, dog barks, he leaves. Comes up, dog barks, he leaves, and the dog's going, holy cow, I saved us again. And this idiot inside is not paying any attention, and I've just made him go. Or the dog comes by the house, goes, whew, I averted another one. I've saved us again, okay? And as this goes on, the dog starts going, holy cow, this is my job. I'm in charge. I have to be on the lookout all the time because nobody else is in charge of doing this. And then somebody comes up to the house and the dog's going, rawr, 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 and that person doesn't leave. They try to come in. The dog's going, holy cow, it's the end of the world. And they go out and attack or they bite or whatever. So allowing the dog to bark, allowing the dog to do these types of things is telling the dog, I'm the one that's setting the boundaries. You've got to get out of here, okay? And so we look for stuff like that. This is a big one, though. What are you doing that's signaling to the dog that you're not in control? One of my questions that I always ask, and if you had me as a consultation, you had an anxious dog, you probably got this question, is where does your dog sleep at? okay? And I would say 95% of the dogs that we deal with were anxiety cases. The dog is in the bed or in the bedroom with the owner, okay? Now, does that mean that that's detrimental? No, it doesn't, but it tells me one thing. It tells me that there's a very unlikely there's boundaries in the home, okay? Because if the dog's allowed in the bed, they're typically allowed on the couch, they're allowed on the kitchen, they're allowed around the dinner table, and there's no boundaries. And I'm not talking about a physical barrier like a door being closed or a baby gate up. Mom dog doesn't put up a baby gate and say, please stay out. She says, get away from my puppies. I'll kick your butt if you come over here. Don't come over here. And dogs go, got it. We're not supposed to be over there. It is purely a mental line of do not come in here. Okay? And so, but the other thing is it can create a sense of dependency on you. And the dog can become dependent on you for security. Andrea and I just got back from Washington, D.C. We went up to visit some of her family and did some touring around. And because of sleeping arrangements at one of her family members' houses that we were staying with, our 3-year-old had to sleep in the bed with Andrea and I. We got back Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday was freaking hell at our house trying to get her to go to her own bed. I want to sleep with you. I don't like sleeping by myself. The dark. I'm scared of the dark. It was 6 nights that we were in D.C., 5 nights we were in D.C., and in that little bit of time created a dependency on Andrea and I for security and for that sense of security. I send my kids away from me constantly. I do boundaries, I do structure with them, not because I'm trying to be mean to them, but to build independence with them and to build confidence in them and to establish, go, you can't sleep in mom and dad's bed tonight. You got to sleep in your bed. Yes, ma'am.
Do the kid again.
What's that?
Do the kid again.
But yeah, and so I do these things because I love them. I'm on the phone in the office. Hey guys, get out of my office. Go somewhere else. I love you. Get out of here. It's not time for you right now. Bedtime. Go get in your bed. Go to school. Go be a kid. Go out in the yard and play. I love you. Get out from under me. Stop being on top of me. And Andrew and I should have learned a lesson the first time because Colton was our first mistake we did because we used to lay down with him every single night when he was our firstborn. We were doing the helicopter parents. We got to lay with you. Got to read your book every single night, tuck you in, and we're going to lay with you until you fall asleep. Well, fast forward 2.5 years old, it was taking 15, 20 minutes to go to sleep. We get tired laying in there with him. We try to get up and walk out of the room, and it was just saying, dragons are going to get me. And it was Colton, go to bed. I need your TT. No, you don't. Go back to bed. I need a drink of water. Go back to bed. Stop coming out. Had I closed the door and locked the door, what would he have done? He would have stood at the door going, let me out, and he would have cried until he cried himself asleep. He does not understand, or my children did not understand a physical barrier. It had to be a mental barrier. Get away from me, go do something else before I could put the mental barrier or the physical barrier in place. It has to be a mental barrier first, then you can put a physical barrier in place. When we're dealing with dogs that have separation anxiety and they come here, we put them in a kennel back there and they start panicking, the first thing we do is go open the door, put a collar on them, and mark that boundary with a collar of don't come out of that kennel until we call you out. And the dog starts going, and it's back. And the dog goes, you don't want me to come out? We go, no, we don't want you to come out. And then we go and close the door, they go, got it. And they go lay down. We've got 26 dogs back here right now. Outside of when they were just letting them out, they're doing the nighttime routine to let them out. So a couple of dogs get let out. The other ones are going, I want to get out too. That was the barking you heard a minute ago. Immediately in control. Stop. Go lay down. You'll get out in a minute. I'll let you out in a minute. It's quiet back there, and that's for a reason. We were very, very strict with the dogs when they're here. We're not, we don't abuse them or anything, but it's just you're not in charge here. We are. Now I'm getting off tangent here, so I'll bring it all back to it. So, any military guys and gals, anything? Okay. So, I like to use the analogy with the military. And if you're not in the military, you still get this analogy because I'm sure you've watched movies and you've seen the portrayals of it. But those first 2 to 3 weeks, you go in the military, what do? I mean, it's just hard, right? I mean, it's just you don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't pee, you don't do anything until I tell you to do it, right? And the whole point of that is to get them to understand you're not in charge, 18, 19-year-old. You're not in charge. You have to do what I tell you to do it when I tell you to do it because your life depends on it. Okay? And then once they understand that, then they start easing up and start allowing you a little bit more freedom, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more freedom. Okay? And this is why we can take dogs in here and bring them in. It's just strict. And I can take an aggressive dog that most people can't take because of the structure and the boundaries we get, and then bring them into a play group and go, hey, leave it alone. They go, got it, you're in charge, I'm not going to fight. And so we can get the dog to come in here and not react But then we take them back home and they go back to the shelter, or they go back to that environment where they feel like they're in charge, and they start showing those responses again. Does that make sense? And so, and same thing with the military thing. It's just, you are not in control. Period. You don't do anything until I tell you to. So when we have a very anxious dog, I am extremely strict with them. And when I'm teaching clients, it's just that dog doesn't do anything until he's told to do it. His place is in the living room, okay? He can't go in the kitchen. He can't go upstairs. He can't get on the couch. He can walk around that living room. He can't go anywhere else until you tell him to. And it's just taking all control. Don't bark. Hey, you bark. Stop. Get over there and lay down. I got it. Relax. And it's again, it's in the way that the dog understands. It's claiming stuff, and it's claiming ownership of the house, that the dog starts going, I'm not in charge here. And it allows them to go to a submissive state where they start relaxing and start calming down. That doesn't mean you have to do it, for how long, for the rest of the dog's life. But the harder you are mentally on the dog and with the structure and boundaries, the faster you're going to get that breakdown of, I'm not in charge anymore. Again, if your dog follows you around the house constantly, that is that Colton or Amelia. I got to be next. I got to be next. I can't be by myself. I got to be next to you. And then what happens is we sit there and allow that, and then we go to work and we close the door and there's a barrier there. And the dog starts going, holy cow, I got to get to you. They start tearing down the walls. They start tearing up carpet because they're going, I can't get to my security blanket. My security blanket is gone. And so they start, and this is where we see separation anxiety. Okay, it is purely it's a lack of independence in the dog, of being okay being by themselves. And so if you do have that, and this is something you're dealing with, you have to establish that independence while you're at home. It can't be just when you leave the house. It's got to be, I'm in the kitchen, go. I'm in the bathroom. Good gosh, get out of here. I'm trying to use the bathroom. Go somewhere else. Go be a dog. Let them out the back door. Anybody got a dog, you let them out the back door and they turn around and stand at the door trying to get back in? I got to be with you. I got to be with you. Go be a dog. Go play out in the yard. Get out in the yard. Get away from me. I love you, but God. And it's the same, again, I do the same thing with my kids every day of the week. And again, with Ellie, when we got back from the trip, we had to be hard on her. We had to be mean to her. Go to bed. Stop getting out of bed. And she still gets up at 3 in the morning and crawls in there. We don't know it, but yeah. But again, it takes time to build that confidence of her being by herself. She still whimpers a little bit at nighttime. It wasn't an overnight fix. It takes time to build that independence, to build that trust, and to build the confidence. And then the last thing, does the dog bark continuously? I love invisible fences, but they are notorious for allowing the dog to run the perimeter and bark the whole time they're out there. And so if your dog's out there barking, I highly encourage throwing a bark collar on top of the invisible fence. You're going to have 3 collars on your dog by the end of the day, but it's just stop barking. You don't bark. I don't allow my dogs to bark. I mean, they can bark. Mailman comes up, that's fine. They bark, let me know someone's there. I walk out, hey, off, go, I got it. And they go, cool, Dad's got it. And they stop barking, and there's no more barking to it. It's just, I got it. And so what do you do when the dog's anxious? And so if you're coddling the dog, if you're comforting the dog, you're, again, when it's envision the puppies back there, cuddling with each other, I'm scared too. Okay, so when you go to a dog that's scared and you're going, it's okay, it's okay. The dog's going, you're just as scared as I am. Why are you doing this? Okay, the difference in sit and the way we train with e-collars and the way others train. If you've read anything on e-collar training prior to getting into us, or even after you've got in, or you may see this in your own dog, where they'll say, e-collar will make the dog aggressive. It'll make them, more aggressive and such. What happens is, when most e-collar trainers use it, what we call negative-based training. It's purely a punishment-style training. The dog does something wrong, you hit it, and the dog goes, crap, that hurt, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so it's effective in the beginning to stop unwanted behavior, but long-term, you pull out the collar, the dog goes, crap, what did I do wrong? And so if your dog's cowarding to the collar, I would probably say you're not using it in a more of a neutral manner. And kind of give the example. If I go up to my son and I go, and I'm going, Colton, stop. Colton, quit. Colton, off. Colton, leave it alone. Colton, go there. And it's just nothing but a constant hit, and it's a constant correction. I go to reach for him, he's going to start going, what did I do wrong now? Versus I go up to him, I go, hey, buddy, you want to go outside and go play? Hey, buddy, dinner's ready. Hey, buddy, I love you. Hey, don't do that to your sister. Don't do that to your sister. I can use the touch in a neutral manner to go, hey, let's go outside and go play. Hey, you want your ball? Hey, I got food right here. Hey, come up here on the couch with me. Hey, leave that alone. Don't watch it. Hey, leave that dog alone. The problem is when the dog doesn't understand what the tap means, it can cause aggression in the dog. And because what happens is the dog sees something, and if we're using it in the way that's just a punishment, the dog starts anticipating, going, every time I see that dog down there, I start getting the crap beat out of me here. And I don't know why. It must be that dog. So they start anticipating it, and they start going, here comes that dog. It's coming. And so it'll look like, and they start anticipating the correction from the collar. And you'll see them get more and more reactive. So if your dog's doing that, one or two things is going on. Either we're totally using it for a correction, or we don't have enough trust up to get that close to the dog yet. We need to back up and work the dog further away from the stimulus and then gradually work them up. Does that make sense to everybody? So if your dog is getting more aggressive with pressure, one, do more positive association. Two, make sure your dog fully understands that tap means look. And then three, draw back from the stimulus. Brad, would you mind grabbing me a collar and a thing, and then let Ranger out, please? But the faster we get to the level the dog is making the decision, it's, again, no different than a kid. The faster the child does it, and the less I have to keep going, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, the less I have to do it down the road. There's a reason the invisible fence has a very high level of pressure after the warning. There's a warning level. You go past it, you're going to hit a very high level of pressure. And you have to take the dog through it a couple times. You go, here's a warning, there's a hit. And they go, wow, and then you pull them back. And you take them back up, let them hit the warning, they hit it, you pull them back. What happens on the third time? They get to the warning and they go, I know what comes after that. I ain't doing that no more. And then, 6 months down the road, people tell me I don't even have to put the collar on. They know where that boundary is at. And so in the beginning, if you're kind of closer to the beginning of your training, we're a lot slower about going up on pressure because the dog's still trying to understand what the pressure means and what that it means you go up. Once the dog fully understands the collar, you will see me go up on pressure very fast. And I typically kind of jump up pretty quick because it only takes one or two times of doing that, and then I can typically put the collar up and don't even have to use it at that point because the dog goes, you know what, every time I'm not paying attention to you, that goes up, I'm going to start paying attention to you. And the other thing is sometimes you have to go to that level where it just snaps them out of it. And you see this in the movies. The person's just totally freaking out and their friend comes up to them and they snap. It's like, knock it off. And they go, thanks. It's like, and that's kind of sometimes what the dog needs. Just stop, focus on me. I got it. And then everything calms down. If you're having to stay up on high level pressure all the time, either the dog doesn't understand it or you're fired. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. I'm going to let him see that I have treats because he's pretty food motivated. Here's the thing. So I'm going to put the treats right there. This is all I'm looking for is that when I tap that collar, he turns and looks at me. That's all it is. Ignore the treat. No, that was ignore it, you jackass. I didn't point. So he's primarily off hand signals, which again, this is why we teach body language is so important because he saw me do that and he immediately went toward it. And so, have you got any more? Is that all? Okay, that's it. Man. So, again, just like that, signal to him, come to a heel position. That's all I want you to do here. On the count of three, I want you all to do something for me. We do a quick demonstration. We do this all over the place. We go to downtown Raleigh, do it. We do it at vets' offices and such. On the count of three, I'm going to ask you to make all the noise you can, bang on the thing, call it, you can scream, you can do anything. I want everybody to make some type of noise to try to get his attention here. And I just want to show you something. You're going to see him look anxious about the response, but I want to show you something. On the count of three, just make some type of noise, hoot, holler, whatever. One, clap, 1, 2, 3. Very good. Very good. It's ignore all those idiots back there. Watch me. I got it. That's all that is. Okay? And that's all I'm looking for with the collar is turn around, watch me, ignore that. And if you notice, his ears went back. He's like, what the hell's going on? Okay, I'm going to turn around. I trust you. So, yeah, good boy. That being said, his second year with me, I was doing a demonstration, and I had him out, and it was with an aggressive dog. And Ranger's kind of my test dummy to see how reactive dogs are. So we'll use him as kind of the bait, so to speak, without allowing him to get bit. So, right? He is. You did good. Break. Go play. So he's a normal dog. He can go do whatever he wants to. It's just do it. But I was doing a demonstration, and I had him on a down. The guy's dog was super. Ranger, come here. You're going to get people's drinks. Over here. Back, actually, come here. Go here. Place, go place. Back place. Go over there. Good boy. Down. Good boy. I was doing a demonstration. The guy's dog was super reactive, and I was standing there talking to the guy, and the guy's leash broke, and the dog ran over and attacked Ranger, full out, bloodied him up. Before I could get over there and pull the dog off. And it took a good 20 seconds to get him off. It took me 8 months to get Ranger to turn his back to an aggressive dog again. One time of losing his and any other time before that, he would lay there and just wag his tail doing what you just saw there with a dog just rah, 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 rah. He's just sitting there and I ain't worried about it. But one time of losing his trust and my ability to control the environment took 8 months to get him to do what you just saw there again, where he's going, okay, I trust you. This is why we do the lifetime group classes, so we can continue working with you until you feel like you've got it under control. So if you need a place that you can practice in a controlled environment, we will offer it to you. It takes time to build that confidence. It takes time to get that level of trust built where the dog says, you know what, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to stay focused on you. Separation anxiety, again, we've already talked about that. Food aggression, again, go command. With food. Anybody have food aggression issues at all? A little bit. So it's all about the dog is claiming his food. If a dog's sitting there claiming food, it becomes an issue. Now, if it's claiming food against you, is it you or another dog?
It's not food, it's like a
Bone, okay, yeah. Got it, okay. So, 2 things. Number one, if it's another dog, I step in. So, going back to my kids, if Colton's playing with his Lego set, and Amelia comes up and wants to play with him, I don't allow Colton to go, get off, go somewhere else. Andrea and I established a boundary there. He can say, Amelia, please don't do that, or please give me that back. If Amelia's harassing him, Amelia, get up and go over there and play with your Barbies, go do something else. Colton's playing with that right now. Andrea and I established that authority. We set the boundaries. Leave him alone, he's trying to play. Go over there and play. Same thing with my dogs. If I put food down and the other dog comes over here, hey, get away from him, that's his food. It's not his job to tell the other dog. That's my job as the leader in the household to tell the other dog to get away from the food. It's mine. Get away from it. Okay? Now, if it's an issue with the dog getting aggressive with you over something, it's really no different though. The dog has established a boundary of this is my bone. Get away from it. I'll bite you if you come over here. And so, like, for example, like food aggression, I'll put the food down, and as soon as the dog starts going toward it, I send them away from it. Go, get away. And I'm using the collar on this, okay? And the second time they challenge it, I go up on pressure really fast. I told you to wet, that's my food. Everything in my house is mine. There's nothing my kids have. Give me that candy. It's not dinner time yet. Give it here. Toy. Give me that toy. It's bedtime. Go to the boy. Go get in your bed. It's everything is ours. Andrea and ours. I love my kids. I give them all types of stuff. They got more toys than they'll ever need, but everything in that house is mine. And it's the same thing with my dogs. That's my bone. Get away from it. And so, and if you go to other trainers, they'll teach you. They'll say, well, you hand feed the dog. So you reach down, you give them food, and you hand feed them. And this is how you convey to the dog, this is your food, and you give it to them. And that's fine. Dogs will sit there and go, yeah, I'll sit here for your food. I'll do whatever you want to if you give me food. The problem comes in when the dog says, this is my food now, get away from it. And then you try to go there and take it away from them, they go, rah, rah, rah. So hand feeding them does not work because it does not communicate to the dog in a way that they understand. They understand, get away from the food. So if they're aggressive with it, I typically get something like an umbrella or something, and I go to them and say, out, 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 and I start moving them back, and it's just get away from that bone. I tell you to drop it, it's mine, give it back to me. But it's basically out command with the pressure of the collar and then move away from the bone. I don't go up and try to take the bone, and if he's still over it, I don't do anything until he moves away. He's got to get up and go, okay, it's your bone, I'm going to hand it to you. And then I go over there and I take it, go, thanks, and I'll hand it back to him. You can have it now. I just want you to know that was my bone. Now, I don't aggravate them and stuff, but if it is aggressive, I don't go with my dogs and take their food away. I rarely ever, but I check it occasionally and just go in there and put my hand in it because my kids like to feed my dogs, and so I want to make sure that if I put my hand in it, they know not to do anything. If you have an issue with the dog barking at the door, I don't wait till somebody comes to the door. I go over there and knock on the door, get away from the door. Knock on the door, get away from the door. Have Andrew go outside, ring the doorbell, get away from the door. It's my door, get away from it, don't go away. But even then, you want to have boundaries without distractions so the dog just understands what it means. We don't take a dog that's reactive to another dog and immediately put them around another dog and try to train them there. We teach heel over here by themselves and get the command down, and then once they got the command down and they understand pressure collar, then we start slowly introducing the distraction. Boundaries are no different. So boundaries, hey, I just sat down on the toilet, get out of the bathroom. I'm cooking dinner, get out of the bathroom, or get out of the kitchen. Bathroom, yeah, we cook dinner. So in doing this, and the dog just recognizes, just like Ranger. It's like, oh, he goes, okay, no problem. Ranger, come. Good boy. It's okay for your dog to be scared. It's natural. And the thing I look for is, are you exacerbating it, or are you giving confidence to the dog? It's just like it's the dog that was the fireman's dog that was in the kitchen shaking, having a seizure. I'm fine with that. I don't care if he poops on himself. He's managing it, and he's dealing with it. The biggest thing is, not allowing him to run an attack and not allowing him to go hide. Yeah, you just got to deal with it. Now, in that situation, though, I'm going to come back to the thunder in a second, but like the fireman, again, it's a combination of control, structure, and boundaries. I'm going to claim, set a boundary, get away from the door. He's mine coming in the house, leave him alone. And then I'm going to move to a control, come here and sit right here and don't move. And so it's come over here and sit. And so I move from a claiming issue and establishing that authority to come over here and sit next to me and just chill. Don't go anywhere. You can shake, you can pant, you can do whatever. Just don't run, don't hide. Okay? Does that make sense? And so same thing, thunder goes off. Jude, my pit, she does the same thing. Matter of fact, if you look at her on your way out, she's got a bloody nose right here. The other night I went home, it was thundering. She was trying to get out of a crate because it was freaking her out. Nobody was there with her. It was a bad storm came through, and she bloodied her nose trying to get out of it. And so the biggest thing is though. So the last night we had the thunderstorm. I went out there and I told her sit and just hey, go to your kill, sit. And it's okay to give them a safe spot, okay? I'm not saying take all safe spots away, but you just want to make sure that it's not clinging. If you send them to, I'm going to contradict myself. So, for example, if I have a dog that's attacking people coming in, I don't want to send them away and then they go hide under a bed, okay? And allow that. I'm going to move back to the control. Hey, come, get over here and sit. But like with the crate, though, I would probably give them a bed. Hey, go get in your bed. Or the crate may be it. But I'm not going to lock them in the crate. I'm just going to tell them, like Jude, I told her, go get in your crate, lay down. And I left the door wide open. So she had the ability to move to a flight, but she couldn't. It's just stay in there, lay down. I'm here. I got it. Relax. I'm okay with the dog showing anxiety. The biggest thing is, are you responding to it in a proper way that doesn't make it worse and doesn't exacerbate it? And it's more of sit. So when she starts getting up, she starts chewing stuff or trying to get out, sit, stop, because she's in a flight mode. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I'm fine if you're panting and all that. You can show signs of stress. That's fine. But stop trying to get out and stop trying to chew your blanket. Chill out. And again, it's moving to a control. Stop doing what you're doing. And again, this is what I say, it's very interchangeable between the boundaries. Get in your kennel, stay in your kennel. She's obviously fine with that. And then when you give her a command, sit, and then close the door. The other thing is obviously the reward system too. When she does do it right, open the door, good job, come, and rewarding that hugely when she gets it right. And as soon as you see her with the door closed, and she relaxes, and she goes from and you start seeing it, call her out, good job, and reward her, and then play with her for a minute, and then send her right back, close the door right back. And do shorter intervals of it until you can put her in there and she is relaxed. So if your dog's been here, it's probably been around reactive dogs. But what we do is, if I bring a dog in and he's reactive, we don't just throw them out in the middle of the thing. We've worked with them. We've got them understand the collar. We've got them walking past other dogs. And then I'll put them in a play group, and I walk in. We've got a couple of poles in the back, and I walk in with a dog on a leash, and I sit there and move all the dogs away from him. Don't come near him. He's mine. He's with me. Get away. And we're in the middle of 20 dogs running around playing, or 10 dogs running around playing, and I'm sending all the dogs away from him. It's just he's with me. Get away from him. And then what it does, it tells all the dogs, he's supposed to be here, but it also tells this dog, holy cow, this guy's in charge. He just made every one of those dogs move away. And then you start seeing them go, I can relax. And then I'll bring them over, I'll walk them over to a dog, and I'll let them sniff, and then I'll pull them away. Come on, let's go over here. And it's just a very assertive, hey, I'm in charge. You're with me, buddy. Chill out. So one of the beautiful things about a collar is the ability to transfer that authority. Andrea, if y'all have met my wife, very indifferent to dogs. She'll tell you she loves your dog. She honestly does not care anything about your daggum dog. She's never owned a dog before in her life. She doesn't care anything about my dogs. Jude's kind of her dog, but even then, she may talk to that dog once a week. Her dad's a retired Marine colonel. There's something wrong with her. So I think she was beat as a child by her. that being said, we can be downtown Raleigh, 4th of July festival, 70,000 people down there, 60,000 people, and I'm doing demonstrations. She'll come up with the kids before the fireworks. I'll say, hey, can you take the dogs over there and walk them? She'll grab them up, come. And those dogs will heel right through the crowd with her, even though she never feeds them, she never pays attention to them, never does anything with them. They have no concept of who has this. They just know, I felt that, heard the command, I go do it. Okay, and if your dog recognizes this, you're probably training. Well, I walked in Lay's house and she said, he's terrified of the remote. And I said, well, let me see it. And she goes, sit, down, off. And I was like, no wonder. I was like, good Lord. I was like, I'd be scared of it too. It was like, she said, every time I pull this out, he runs and hides. I was like, go figure. But that being said, that transfer of authority, that transfer can go to another dog. And it's one thing you have to be very careful about. It's not that we won't use it. It's just we don't typically teach. We typically say, hey, pull your dog away. We will use it. It's typically with a leash. But the thing you don't want to get is two dogs get up to each other and go, you cool, you cool, you cool? And then you call them on a high pressure. They'll go, that dog just bit me, boom, and they go after it. And so this is where it can cause aggression or it can simulate aggression. The dog can associate it with the dog they're touching. And so you want to be very careful about it. This is why when I'm teaching this with my trainers here, we pull away with the leash just a little bit, and then we apply low pressure collar, and the dog goes, oh, that's you over there. And if we see any sign the dog's associated with that, we just physically pull them away from the other dog. But you can use it. So, for example, Ranger's been on a collar for 8 years. He's rarely on a collar now. He knows it's me. And so if another dog is coming after him, I can use a lot of pressure on him and call him away, and he won't react to it. But again, the closer you are to the newness of the collar, the easier that can transfer to another dog. So it's just something you just want to be careful about. I typically just tell people, pull them away 6-8 inches from the dog, and then you can apply the collar to call them away. If they're off leash and they're doing it, you're going to have to go there and just grab them and pull them away. Any other quick questions real quick? And then I'll be glad to stick around as long as it takes tonight. Well, thank y'all for coming in. I appreciate y'all coming in, and hopefully this helped out a little bit. So.